archery hunting, but it's a subject I'm very interested in.
Well, Wayne, we're in for a real treat today. Neil Keyes and I had a chance to talk to a gentleman this week that does probably the most fantastic longbow making. And let's go down to Bethany, Oklahoma right now, and Neil Keyes.
In this day of space travel, the technology seems to be bringing about modern innovations every day, and a lot of us seem to get so wrapped up into this gadgetry that we seem to lose sight of the true form of hunting and fishing and where it really came from. For example, compound bows, you tend to get so involved in tuning and all the cables and wheels and everything that you lose sight of what you're really out there in the woods for. Well, there's some that have put that aside. They've realized that, and they're getting back to some of the original true art forms. And that's the longbow. For example, we're going to talk about that today, and with me here today to talk about this, I have Dave Johnson, who is probably one of the finest longbow builders here in Oklahoma, maybe the country. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Neil. Pleasure to be here.
We have one of your products in my hand right now, and this is a beautiful, beautiful work of art. I had no idea that you were this skilled a craftsman. What does it take quite a while to build something like this?
Well, actually, it takes about a month to put one completely together from start to finish, just working at different stages. Some of the time you have to wait while things happen, but actually it takes quite a few hours to put one together.
Well, it'll be kind of fun to see how this shoots. I see we've got a kind of a norther coming in. Maybe after a while we can go out and shoot one of these today,
Great.
see how it performs. But I'm really fascinated of how these things are made. And of course, we're in your shop here where you build these bows. Why don't we try to go step by step and see how these things are actually built?
Fine. This bow happens to be made of red cedar, aromatic cedar, some people call it, and this is just the type of wood that you're used to finding in a cedar closet or a cedar chest. This happens to be my favorite wood, although there are several other good woods that lots of bowyers use. The other popular ones, of course, are bamboo, which I suppose is the most popular, and yew wood is a traditional wood that's very much a favorite with lots of folks. But cedar is a challenging wood to work with. I have a piece here I'd like to show you. This is traditionally what you get into when you're working with a piece of cedar wood. It just is filled with knots. And in order to use a piece of wood, we have to have one that is 36 inches by 1.5 inches in width. That is clear. And this is a challenge to find in cedar. But once you have found a piece of wood like that, you take it and rip it with a bandsaw so that you come up with laminations that look like these, about 1/8 inch in thickness.
Well, those are awful smooth, and they're nice and even. How do you get them so uniform?
Well, we have a planer that we use, and also then they're sanded so that they're completely parallel. And eventually, one end of the laminations will be tapered so that one end is thinner than the other. This actually does a little bit of the tillering of the bow before you ever get to the work of doing it with your hands. So, and these are laid out in a fashion like I have on the form here.
And this is your basic form here.
Yes. Not too complicated to do this. Just takes a little bit of practice. On the bottom layer we have a piece of fiberglass. This becomes the back of the bow. Then the layers or laminations of wood are arranged on top of that with the riser or handle on top of that. And then, of course, we lay more fiberglass on the top of all of the other, and this becomes the belly of the bow. These, of course, have to be completely clean and free of dust, and then when glue is applied to both surfaces and they're clamped together with rubber tubes, it gives you a really fine bond that is glued up and cured over a long period of time in an oven.
Okay, now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, what, 4 laminates there? Or
Yes.
5, including the
Counting
outer
the glass.
fiberglass.
That's right. The fiberglass is what sets these bows apart from the bows made in the 40s and 50s. As you know, most of those old longbows were made just of one chunk of wood. They were self-wood bows, and they didn't have the cast that the modern bows do. They did work good, and they shot pretty good, but these bows are more consistent in drawing weight and they just have a lot more power when you use them.
Okay, now I see you have all the pieces assembled now. It ought to be real interesting, the next process that you go through from here.
Right, it is. You have to use the strongest glue that you can, and the glue that I use actually is made to bond aluminum to wood. It's just terrifically stout glue.
I was wondering what you used so that these laminates wouldn't come apart when you started shooting it.
You bet.
So that's glued, and then what we have back here, some of the other steps.
This is one that's actually wrapped up inside a form. There's a bow underneath there.
Those are just strips of inner tube around it.
Just cut up an inner tube and wrap it around there, and it gives you the necessary pressure to take the shape of the form.
I'll be darned. And then, okay, it comes out in that form, and then what do we have next?
Next step, after we unwrap it, the bow looks pretty much like this. Very rough. It's just a blank. And this is where the work really begins.
Okay. Is this some of the glue sticking out? Or
No, this is just a piece of saran that I wrap around the form to protect the form from glue. Okay, this would be the next step. Actually taking a template, laying it out on the form, and tracing around it so we have the general shape of the bow. This then is cut out on a bandsaw, and eventually come up with
this here.
something that looks like this. Now it's beginning to look a little bit more like a bow, but still quite a bit of work left to be done there.
Okay, and then here we have down a little bit further.
Yeah, we just started to tiller this one a little bit. Shaping the limbs is a kind of a slow process. It takes quite a while, and this is done by taking off amounts of wood just in the right places. And this can be done a little bit with power tools, but mainly it's with a wood rasp. This bow's coming along pretty far.
Okay.
It's beginning to shape up real nicely, and it's beginning to look a little bit like a bow also.
It sure is. I notice, you know, modern bows, the handle's kind of recessed to fit the handle a little better. Is there a reason for keeping this sort of straight like that?
Well, traditionally they've always been just pretty much straight grip, maybe just a little bit of a dish to them to kind of give you a place to put your hand consistently each time. But these are just pretty much pieces of sticks that it's amazing how much care has to be given at this point, though. When you get to this point, you have to keep the string running exactly through the center of the bow in order for it to shoot correctly. If it's not, it's going to shoot to the left or right, or maybe both.
Or maybe twist, possibly, or ruin the bow.
You bet.
Boy, and those limbs are so narrow, I bet that is critical.
It really is.
Do you keep, you put a string on it and test it from time to time, and then take a little off?
You bet.
So then from there, you come out to a beautiful piece like this, of course, with fine sanding and finishing it. And I understand you don't, you actually don't do your final finishing yourself.
That's right. Actually, I started out finishing the bows myself, but last year, a friend of mine up in Edmond, Don McGee, started applying the finishes for me. He does a terrific job. This is actually a two-part finish that he puts on here with a hardener in it that is just unbeatable. I think he does an excellent job.
Well, Dave, see, we've got some arrows down here. Is this what you recommend for these?
You bet. This is just the right medicine for a longbow.
They're wooden.
Right.
Cedar, I guess.
That's true. These are Port Orford cedar. They come from Oregon. And this is just the type of thing that you like to shoot out of a longbow because they recover real quickly. Within, just a few feet, they're going straight.
You mean they're better than, say, aluminum or fiberglass?
It's hard to believe, but that's true. They're a lot easier when you're shooting at rocks or accidentally hit rocks. They're less likely to be destroyed, and if they are, you're only talking about a few cents rather than a few dollars.
Okay. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Well, of course, they're tradition, too, I guess, aren't they?
Oh, sure. They're compatible with the longbow, absolutely. This one is just almost ready to be fletched. It has a little crest on it. And then this one is with the feathers applied.
Well, you make those as well as your bow. That's a good-looking arrow.
Well, this is a thing that lots of archers like to do, is make their own equipment. And this is one thing that's very easy to learn how to do. It just takes a few steps and, of course, economical, too.
Well, after seeing what a craft this is and how intricate it is building these bows, I'm real anxious to go out and try to shoot one.
I think we ought to do that.
Great, let's go. Hey, excellent shot. You know, it's amazing. I've been watching you. Real consistent. The bow It shoots good groups, good arrow flight, real accurate, of course, and quiet. But I notice your shooting style is a little bit different than the conventional form. Is that something, a technique that you have to use with this kind of bow?
Pretty much. It's just kind of a fluid motion. The whole thing kind of has to move together as your bow is coming up. It's kind of a push-pull situation where your left hand is pushing while your right hand is drawing. And
you're almost like a coiled spring. Let's see how you draw and hold a little bit differently than I've seen. Oh, great shooting. Even with this wind the way it's come up, you're still shooting it great.
why don't you give it a try? I think you could handle one of these.
I'd like to try. I really would, Dave. But you know, it's been a couple of weeks since bow season, and I'm not an instinctive shooter.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Hey, good shot.
Oh, thank you, Dave. A little bit of luck there, I think, but it is a beautiful bow, and they do shoot beautifully. We want to thank Dave Johnson for inviting us into his shop, showing the skills involved in making these long bows. And you know, folks, there's an active organization here locally that they do nothing but shoot long bows. And if any of you'd like to get in touch with them and learn more about this fun, new growing sport, get in touch with us. We'd be happy to put you in touch with them.
Thank you, Neil, on that excellent report. And there is a state organization called Oklahoma Longbowmen. And Wayne, what did you think of that?
It gets your fever up, Dave. Makes you want to get a bow and start shooting.
Well, like I said, that man sure makes some excellent bows, and they are beautiful. You know, you can't really tell on TV just how beautiful those bows really were. But right now, let's go to Paul Moore and this week's Booming Ground.